Oh, that is correct. That is right. It is game day. Broncos and Colts. And that means it is time for another edition of Orange and Blue today. Cecil, Lammey, Andrew Mason to discuss what's going on with the Denver Broncos and the big reveal coming up tonight, Thursday Night Football on Power Field at Mile High. And, well, Mace, we got to get into it today and see what these Broncos have in store for their fans tonight. Hopefully it's a nice, big, fat, juicy win. That would be good. That'd make us feel good after that Raiders game. And that's the thing, like, everything can be set right. Like, everything can be put on the right track. If only we get to this portion, if only we get to where we can look at it and say, you know what, the Denver Broncos, they've got it done. The Denver Broncos, they're all right. So the Denver Broncos can change all the negative feelings that we've had. They can change all the bad feelings that everybody's had since the Raiders game. You can take that away. We're not going to forget about it, but you can negate it. You can take it away, and you can start to build momentum moving forward. And 12 days, 11 days from now, you've got that big game coming up, Monday Night Football against the Los Angeles Chargers and your division rivals. So Mace back here with me. And Mace,
trying to get the angle right here. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. It's all good, baby. We're live on the scene. That's where we're at as we're preparing for this contest, and we're preparing to see what the world the Broncos can do tonight. But I wanted to start tonight's discussion, Mace, just about building momentum for the rest of this regular season, building momentum for, of course, what's going to happen against the Chargers in 11 days. Not to get too far ahead of myself, but tonight's game is so big because you can build that momentum for the rest of the way.
You can. I mean, you're going to have a long break after this, but you could be sitting there, if you get it done tonight, saying a lot's gone wrong to this point. Offense didn't click in the first four. Maybe it's not going to click tonight as well, but if you're sitting there at 3-2, you can still say, okay, we're in a pretty good spot here to start fixing, to keep fixing these things that are going askew. And you're going to, bit by bit, get some pieces back. Yeah, you've lost Javonte Williams for the season. Yeah, you're going to be without Randy Gregory for a few weeks here. But after this game, you'll get back Justin Simmons likely for the Charger game. So you start kind of being able to fill in the gaps a little bit. So, yeah, I mean, you get it done tonight, you're feeling pretty good.
Yeah, you're feeling really good if you're the Denver Broncos, because the Colts, they are a team that I imagine they'll figure it out. Now, are they good now? Right? Everyone making fun of the Colts now. Mace, you and I take a different angle on this show, and I'm perfectly fine with that. In fact, I like it. I want that because it's not about hot take radio or podcasts or whatever we're doing. Like, it's about telling the truth. The Colts are a good team. They're not playing well right now. Mm-hmm. Matt Ryan's not playing well. They're without Jonathan Taylor. But this is a team I could see putting it together and at the end of the year being a factor. So if the Broncos can beat this team, that's a positive sign.
Right. I mean, look, the way of Frank Reich teams is that they finish better than they start. And, I mean, last year was no different. Bad start. Yeah, they lost the last two at the end, but they got hot in November and December. Usually takes a little while for them to find their way. The fact that they go through a quarterback every year, that certainly doesn't help the stability. Although, one thing, I mean, we've talked a lot about Matt Ryan this week. Yeah, he's got the fumbling problem. Melvin Gordon is not the only fumbler in this game. Matt Ryan's fumbled 9 times. The last quarterback to fumble 9 times in the first 4 games of a season was Kurt Warner in his only season with the Giants back in 2004. So that, so they've got some things going wrong, but at the same time, Matt Ryan is also getting back on track as a passer. This is not a slouch team, even though you don't have Jonathan Taylor, you don't have Shaquille Leonard on the defense. They've got a lot of speed, especially at the linebacker position on defense. They're going to be able to go sideline to sideline. I mean, that's 2 years ago, they were a playoff team. Last year, they led the league in Pro Bowlers. It's a team that has some talent. Actually, I should say plenty of talent out there, even without some of their big studs.
Yeah, and I think that Godfather J6 here in the chat says it's perfectly like, hey, it's going to take time, right? It's a 2-2 team, brand new coach, new quarterback, new coordinators. It was always going to take time. Be happy that you're 500 and then look forward to winning more games and then getting on the right track. But the Broncos know what's in front of them. Russell Wilson I heard Derek Wolf on the drive on the way, running around the Mile High City. Wolf was like, he's no dummy. He knows they got to win tonight. And again, I know the must-win thing. It's like hot take stuff. Like, just win the damn game, okay? Go out there and get the W.
Right, and it's like they would say in the NCAA tournament, survive in advance. That's what this is. I mean, and Derek is right. Every team has talent. Every team is to some degree good. There are no walkovers in this league. I mean, there are games that you feel like you should win, but there's no game where you're going out there and saying, oh, I mean, if you screw up if you don't get a win. That's not the case here. I mean, and this team is actually, again, in terms of talent, man for man, it's an above average team, even with what they're doing without. Now, that being said, they are weak at some spots where the Broncos can exploit them. They are weak at the tackle spots right now, strong on the interior line, weak at the tackle spots, and I think Denver can exploit that.
Yeah, and I think that's where we get into the Baron Browning conversation. Orange and blue today, Cecil, Lammey, Andrew Mason. And this young man's been waiting for that opportunity. There's several players out there that go about things the right way. You know, I'll compare it to Rashad White down in Tampa with the Buccaneers. That dude's always wanted to be the starter. Like, he's never really hid that, but he also isn't going out his way to be like a jerk because Leonard Fournette's there. Baron Browning, I would say, has that sort of same hunger where we're never going to get that press clipping from Baron Browning that's like, he says he's better than Randy Gregory. But I'll tell you this, the kid doesn't lack confidence and he loves playing on the outside. He's ready to kind of flourish and showcase what he can do tonight.
Yeah, he shouldn't lack confidence anyway, based on what we saw over the summer and the skill set that we know that he has, and the fact that he was doing well, even when asked to go against first teamers on the Broncos offense. So you know he can deliver. Bradley Chubb talked about it again this week, that he's got the speed, he's got the bend. I mean, I think that while you're not happy to see a guy get hurt, and you're going to miss Randy Gregory, especially because he's so proficient at the strip sack fumble, which I think is going to come into play tonight because Matt Ryan's put the ball on the ground so much. There is a genuine level of excitement for Baron Browning to get an extended run. And I think also organizationally, some curiosity in a good way about what he can do, because in effect, this is something of an audition for Baron Browning. And it's interesting to kind of start looking at the long-term plans. And if Browning goes off in the next few games here, then that actually has a domino effect potentially on what you're talking about on the edge. Maybe in the decision you make with Bradley Chubb after this season, do you give him a long-term deal, or do you tag him for a year, or do you let him move on? And to a lesser degree, Nick Bonitto is going to get some chances as well. Now, he is farther away from being a finished product. Right. There's a reason why Baron Browning is going to start and Nick Bonitto is going to be rotational. Baron Browning is much better at setting the edge right now. Nick Bonitto at setting the edge against the run. A work in progress, to put it kindly. But you're going to find out more about him over the next few weeks as well, and that's going to factor into your long-term planning.
Yeah, and the young man's going to get plenty of experience and time to rush the passer. And as a reserve, you take what a young Shaq Barrett did, as a rotational reserve guy. Young Malik Reed did as a rotational reserve guy. This is good news for the Denver Broncos. Again, we're going to miss Randy Gregory, obviously a quality player and obviously playing at an incredibly high level before this injury. But having Browning, having Bonitto, the killer bees are what I'm incredibly excited about. Now, if we move to the one thing that I'm excited about, Mace, and it may surprise you, so I'm glad you're sitting down, brother. And a
long way away at the other side of the table.
Yeah. I'm excited about Montreal, Washington. I think tonight is the night when you see the Broncos special teams return for a touchdown or the defense. Now, I'm not saying be like Brandon Stokely and Zach Bye, but if that's your way and you can say, hey, anytime touchdown for the Broncos defense and special teams, yeah, I'm taking that. You've highlighted it, Mace, through your numbers article, through your work at denverfan.com. Like, the Colts aren't real good and they turn the ball over. So if you want to take a chance on the Broncos defense scoring tonight, it's a pretty good chance.
And from a fantasy perspective, Broncos defense and special teams probably a good play here tonight in terms of what they can do. And I'll say this, though. The fact that you mentioned Montreal, Washington in that, yes, I am glad I'm sitting down. I I kind of want Montreal Washington to get a touchdown right now because I would like to see what your reaction is tomorrow.
Yeah.
If we're talking about our let's and look, he had a real good game on Sunday. He took advantage of AJ Cole with a bunch of line drive, low hang time punts. He outkicked the coverage.
Yep.
And look, he did what you expect a good returner to do. He capitalized off of some space to work with. If Montreal Washington is sitting there top 3 or 4 in the league in punt returns, has a touchdown or 2 by the end of the season, how will you view that draft pick?
Still as a mistake based on what you could have gotten. Return man is less important than a 6'4" corner that can run. And I know Jalen Watson's like 6'3". Like I put more emphasis on the position than I do on the player. And it's never been about Montreal's skill. Montreal's very skilled. Like that's a given. His physical stuff's so easy to see. Not you, Mace, but there's others in the Denver media that like are trying to be like Marco Polo with Montreal Washington. It's like, man, you didn't hear about Montreal Washington until he was picked. You didn't even know who he was. You and I, Mace, knew who he was. Not to sound like an arrogant aloha, but yeah.
Like I knew that from I knew that from the Florida game.
Yeah, yeah.
I can, and believe me, you can look at that return, that kickoff return that he has, and you can see why the Broncos were enamored with him because he has some special skill as far as navigating his way through a crowd and finding small crevices and quickly changing direction. Exactly. And the fearless thing, that is exactly true. He's got that combination that allows him to turn what appears to be to the naked eye nothing into something. And that's natural. You can't coach that. You either have it or you don't. And he does, to his credit. I mean, the argument on positional value, draft pick value, that is fair. That is a fair argument. But I will also say this. We've seen enough Broncos draft picks go askew over the years that if Montreal Washington proves to be a hit in round 5, I'm saying thank you. And maybe you're like, okay, you could have those other guys, blah, blah, blah. I'm just thankful that they have a hit in an area where they've had a fair amount of misses.
Yeah, don't have the misses there. And it's about time. I think it is time. And I think he does it tonight, actually, Mace. And we shall see what goes on there. One player that you're excited about, since we're kind of doing this excitement thing pregame. And we're going to do a pregame, by the way, at 5:15. So we're doing this show now. We're got about 10 minutes left. So we'll get done with Orange and Blue today. A little bit of a break, Mace. You'll hurry over to the stadium, and we'll get the pregame done as well around 5:15. But is there one player you're excited about tonight?
Well, we mentioned Baron Browning, so I'll go to another name. I think Draymond Jones is a big night tonight too.
Oh yeah, what a game against the Raiders too.
Yeah, I mean, literally, you could argue single-handedly was a 4-point difference in terms of in terms of a TFL that turned a touchdown into a field goal, basically. So, I mean, he's making impactful plays. I think the impactful plays come in pass rush tonight for Draymond Jones. And I'm going to call my shot here. And was just on with D-Mac and Derek Wolf earlier this hour. And Derek said it. I agree. Going to call it. Strip sack for Draymond Jones tonight.
Okay. I like it. Draymond Jones could certainly do that.
He's going to get the ball out tonight. That's my pick.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what happens after that. I know Derek was
hopefully they pick it up and score.
Well, Derek was talking about a scoop and score for Chubb off of that. That's more random than I'm going to predict, but I am going to predict that Draymond Jones has the ball come out at Matt Ryan's expense, continuing Matt Ryan's proclivity for fumbles here at the start of the season.
Well, and again, I'm not going to sound like a degenerate, Mace, but like the defensive scoring, if they can score a touchdown, just one, whether it's special teams or defense, that's greatly going to benefit what the offense can do because they're still finding their way. So I've picked the Broncos 24-14, spoiler alert, but like to get to that 24, it could be a defensive touchdown, and I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to predict that, but I will say, like, if they get to 24, 27 points or even 30, I think there's a defensive touchdown involved with that. If they don't have that, I think they're somewhere around 20.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, Thursday night football is usually good for the under, right?
Yeah, usually. So we'll see. And we're dealing with a team that scores 16 points a game and a team that scores 14 points a game. So
yeah,
that I think they're expecting a little bit more, but not much more on Thursday night football.
Yeah, the TNF. I mean, it's a big deal here, but this matchup, I think next Thursday's TNF game is Chicago, Washington. They're going into a little bit of a valley here in terms of.
Yeah, in terms of Amazon not so prime, right? That's what we call it there. We got Mace with some technological difficulties. He's back. We're back. But yeah, Amazon not so prime is what I called it, Mace.
Oh, well, has it been buffering for you?
Not much, just a little
okay,
bit.
So it's just not so prime in the matchups. It's working fine. I do like the alternate feed that they have, the StatCast, the next gen StatCast that they have. That's been a lot of fun to watch the last couple of weeks.
You know who else is going to be big tonight? And I've done a lot of football nerd talk today. I've been on the air about 7 hours today, Mace. I did a Football Outsiders show with our friends Aaron Schatz and Mike Tanier. You talk about they're like us, right? They're just huge football nerds. And so they were talking about sack, pass rush, win rate, and DVOA and all the Football Outsiders stuff, which we know and love. And Aaron Schatz brought up DJ Jones. He's like, DJ Jones should have a hell of a game tonight. The tackles are weak for the Colts. Interior's a little bit stronger, but DJ has been so disruptive on the inside, middle pressure, run stuffing. He's doing it all. Tremendous addition from George Payton.
Yeah, better in the pass rush than I think a lot of people realize, but I'll give credit to Orlando Franklin for kind of tipping us both off about what he saw from DJ in practice last year with the 49ers and saying, look, the run stuffing is great, but this guy's not just a run stuffer, that he's got pass rush ability as well. Just didn't have as many chances to show it. You're seeing it out there. I mean, really the only thing that holds DJ Jones back is that you've got to watch the snaps on him, because he's not going to be a guy that you want playing 80% of the snaps. So you got to get a little more from Deshaun Williams and Matt Henningsen rotating in there. But Jones DJ's been tremendous. And DJ is good for really, and this says a lot about an interior defensive lineman, he is good for 2 huge impact plays a game so far this season, which for someone in his role is really unusual. And also, Mike Purcell's off to a good start to this season as well. So I love the work the Broncos are getting up front. I gave him the highest grade of any position group last Sunday. Even if you're like, oh well, the Raiders ran for 200 yards. Yeah, the Raiders ran for 200 yards, and the defensive line did its job and did it well. I mean, that was yes. You're looking at the linebackers, you're looking at the back seven for why things kind of fell apart there against the run, not the work the D-line did. D-line was tremendous on Sunday.
D-line was absolutely fantastic. And our friend Mike Kliss, and I say this lovingly because I love Kliss. I know a lot of people don't, but whatever, I do. When he tweeted after the game, like, hey, gold stars for Josie Jewell and the 14 million tackles. I was like, Josie didn't get a gold star, brother.
Oh, I mean,
Josie did not get a gold star. He got a lot of tackles, but he did not get a gold star.
I mean, look, and I know we like to talk about tackle stats with Randy Gradishar.
Right.
But I like to look at other stats, because tackle stats do not, if you get a high tackle total, it does not mean you're a great defensive player or that you had a great game. Okay. Josie Jewell had a terrific game against the 49ers. I want to tip my cap to him then. But just because he had, 14 tackles last week against Las Vegas, it wasn't a good game for him. And in particular, for Josie Jewell and Jonas Griffith, and this is something that you have to watch out for going forward. You have 2 consecutive games now, but more so the Raiders, that set them up in matchups that weren't favorable for them in terms of coverage. And the Colts are going to try to do some similar things. They're going to try to post up. Hey, let's use the basketball term for Mo Alley Cox. They're going to try to post up Mo Alley Cox against Griffith and Jewell, and they're going to have to do better.
Yeah, they're going to really try to exploit those linebackers in coverage. We'll see how the Broncos respond tonight. Again, Orange and Blue today, every day, 3:30 right here, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Make sure to give us a follow. We're at 104.3 The Fan as we look forward to this game. And we look forward to what kind of crowd response does Philip Lindsay get? We got Cooley Cool in Facebook saying this is set up for the backup running back to go crazy for the Colts. Hope history doesn't repeat itself. Cooley Cool. Appreciate that shout out there. But it's Philip Lindsay, man. And there was a news item that I was writing about that actually says it's going to be Hines and Lindsay not necessarily Deion Jackson. We'll see what comes to fruition tonight. But the crowd's gonna love Phil. Crowd's gonna love Phil.
They are. I mean, what percentage of Broncos ticket holders are also CU fans? Really? I mean,
right.
It's, with all respect to Wyoming, CSU, if you took a poll around the stadium and said, who's your favorite college team, CU would win the day. And people still think highly of Philip Lindsay. Look, if I walk around enough, I'm sure I will see a few Philip Lindsay jerseys on fans walking around the stadium tonight. I mean, so I think the first time his name is announced, there are going to be some cheers. Like when he carried by Philip Lindsay, there are going to be people who cheer. I actually thought this, because I'm always trying to kind of think of storylines and what I might be writing about. If Philip Lindsay goes off tonight, then this might be the rare moment where I actually go to the Colts locker room and not the Broncos locker room after the game, because I think Phil's probably going to be the biggest story. Yeah. If the Colts win and Lindsay has a big night, I think that's the story.
Yeah, I think that's the story as well.
Yeah. So, yeah, I haven't been. I don't think I've had to go to the road locker room after a Bronco game in like 10 years. So hopefully for the Broncos, that doesn't come to pass.
The last time I was in a road locker room, I think it was one of those Patriots games.
Yeah.
Right. During the Manning era. It's like, let's go see what Tommy says. I'll go see what Tommy says. But yeah, it's a rarity when we head over that way, Mace.
Yeah, I know. But it could happen. It could. I say could, and I don't think the chances are great, because I think it will be a little bit more of Nyheim Hines. And I do think the Colts are going to have trouble up front generating the gaps that Philip Lindsay is going to need. But as we know with Phil, all it takes is him getting loose once in the open field. And, oh, by the way, to go back to what we talked about the Broncos inside linebackers, well, I mean, if Phil has never been great catching the ball, but if they do try to get the ball to him in space against those inside linebackers, Phil will have an advantage.
Yeah, and if he gets a clean pass like that, and that was the thing whenever I talk about Philip Lindsay as a receiver, like he would rarely get a clean pass from Drew Lock. So, if he's having to fight it as he's running a route, that doesn't help out Phil. If you put it on the numbers, that's going to help out Phil. So I could see him kind of catch and run Texas route, get open against Jewell or Griffith, and then, turn on the jets.
And we do know Matt Ryan can do that very well. And we've actually seen that firsthand here back in 2016 when he and the Falcons came in.
Yeah, and when Paxton couldn't beat the eventual NFC champions that year, he basically got benched. They went back to Trevor, who clearly wasn't healthy. Clearly, but Paxton couldn't meet the Falcons here because, well, it was Devontae and Tevin, right? At the time, Tevin Coleman, Devontae Freeman.
Yeah, and remember, funny we're talking about linebackers in coverage, because it was Devontae Freeman, Tevin Coleman, but it wasn't them as runners. It was them as pass catchers in space, and they exploited the linebackers. That game, man, that was a turning point game for this franchise in a lot of ways. Because Atlanta exposed a soft underbelly to that defense that it never really got figured out. That great defense, that was the first time that it really looked mortal. And then on the other side of the ball, Paxton Lynch, the Falcons had a week to prepare, and they came at him, and Lynch was just overwhelmed, which was the canary in the coal mine. I mean, there are other games more memorable, but I'm not sure there have been more bigger turning point games for the Broncos in recent history than that game, which was the last time that Matty Ice came in here.
Yeah, Matty Ice came in. He peppered those running backs, and the Broncos did not win. It is Orange and Blue today. Cecil Lammey, Andrew Mason. Mace, we'll get out of here so that you can get to the stadium. We will be back, everybody. We'll be back on our YouTube channel, on Twitter, on Facebook as well. So make sure you like us. You really like us. Thank you very much for doing that. We can't do it without you. And we'll be back at around 5:15 for our pregame show right here for denverfan.com. He's Andrew Mason. You follow him on Twitter at Mace Denver. I am at Cecil Lammey, saying thanks very much for watching. Stay tuned and stay frosty.